In exactly 9 minutes, Maya Sullivan would either graduate from Georgetown Medical Center or lose everything she'd fought 5 years to achieve. But right now, standing in the fluorescent-lit corridor outside examination room, 3C, she couldn't remember how to breathe properly. Her hands trembled inside the pockets of her pristine white coat. The one that still smelled new, still felt like armor that didn't quite fit. Through the small window, she could see the evaluators with their clipboards, the standardized patient waiting on the exam table, and the medical equipment arranged with surgical precision. What she couldn't see was how this moment would end. Would she walk out a doctor, or would the panic attack building in her chest destroy everything in front of the one man whose opinion could define her entire career? The tremor started in her fingertips, as it always did. Subtle at first, then spreading up her arms like electricity through copper wire. Maya clenched her fists tighter, nails biting into palms, using the pain as an anchor to reality. 5 years of sleepless nights. 5 years of textbooks and clinical rotations, and constantly battling the voice in her head that whispered she didn't belong here. While her classmates seemed to glide through medical school with easy confidence, Maya had clawed her way forward, every achievement feeling like a small miracle she'd stolen from fate. "Sullivan, you're up." The proctor's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. She stepped forward, legs feeling distant and uncertain beneath her, like she was piloting her body from somewhere far away. The door swung open. The room smelled of antiseptic and impossibility.
Before we continue, please comment below where you are watching from, and don't forget to subscribe.
3 evaluators sat in a row against the far wall, but Maya's eyes caught on the man in the center, and her breath stuttered. Dr. Marcus Chen. Everyone at Georgetown Medical knew that name. The cardiac surgeon whose innovative techniques had revolutionized valve replacement procedures. The researcher whose wealth had funded entire hospital wings across the country. The man whose face graced both medical journals and business magazines. He was legendary, an untouchable figure, more myth than man in the whispered conversations of medical students. And he was watching her with eyes the color of obsidian, intense and unreadable. "Sullivan." The lead evaluator, Dr. Patricia Morrison, gestured to the examination bed. "You have 25 minutes to perform a complete cardiovascular examination. Identify any abnormalities and present your findings. Your time begins now." Maya moved forward on autopilot, her training taking over even as her mind reeled. She introduced herself to the patient, a middle-aged woman who offered an encouraging smile. The warmth in that expression steadied her slightly. She could do this. She had done this hundreds of times. Her hands found the stethoscope around her neck. She warmed the diaphragm between her palms, a small gesture of consideration she'd been taught in her first clinical rotation. As she leaned forward to begin the examination, she felt it, the familiar tightness in her chest, the way her vision seemed to narrow at the edges. "Not now. Please, not now." She pressed the stethoscope to the patient's chest, listening for the lubed-up rhythm of the heart. Her own pulse roared in her ears, competing with the sound she desperately needed to hear. She moved through the examination points methodically, checking carotid pulses, assessing for jugular venous distension, palpating for heaves and thrills. The patient's voice reached her, as if from underwater. "Are you all right, dear?" Maya blinked, realizing she'd frozen, her hand hovering over the woman's wrist. The tremor had spread from her fingers up her entire arm, visible now, undeniable. The room tilted slightly. She recognized the warning signs with the clarity of long familiarity, a panic attack building like a wave about to break. She tried to breathe through it, using the techniques she'd taught herself over years of managing this invisible burden. Count to 4 breathing in, hold for 4, exhale for 4. But her body was betraying her. Worse, betraying her in front of the one person whose opinion could define her entire future career. "Miss Sullivan, do you need a moment?" Dr. Morrison's voice held professional concern, but also something else. Disappointment, perhaps, or the beginning of a failing grade. Maya opened her mouth to respond, to say she was fine, to push through as she always had. Instead, what emerged was a small, choked sound. And then, to her absolute horror, her knees buckled. She didn't hit the ground. Strong hands caught her elbows, steadying her with surprising gentleness. She looked up into Marcus Chen's face, now close enough that she could see the fine lines around his eyes, the silver threading through his dark hair at the temples. His voice was low, meant only for her. Just breathe. You're safe. The words were so simple, so unexpected, that they cut through the panic like a blade. She found herself focusing on his face, on the steadiness in his gaze. He guided her to a chair, and she sank into it. Her professional composure shattered into 1,000 irretrievable pieces. The examination room had gone quiet. Maya could feel the weight of every eye on her. Could imagine the notes being scribbled on evaluation forms. Failed to maintain composure under pressure. Unable to complete basic examination. Not suitable for medical practice. I'm sorry. The words scraped out her throat. I'm so sorry. There's no need to apologize. Marcus Chen hadn't moved away. He remained crouched beside her chair, his presence solid and somehow calming. He glanced at the other evaluators. Dr. Morrison, perhaps we could pause for a moment. Dr. Morrison looked uncertain, torn between protocol and deference to the man who donated millions to their institution. Dr. Chen, the examination procedures are quite specific. Then let's be specific about what we're examining. Marcus stood, and there was something in his posture that commanded the room. We're evaluating whether Ms. Sullivan has the knowledge and skill to be a competent physician. A panic attack doesn't negate everything she's learned. It makes her human. He turned back to Maya, and she saw something flicker in his expression, something that looked almost like recognition. I've read your file, Miss Sullivan. Your academic record is exceptional. Your clinical evaluations praise your thoroughness and your compassion. He paused. Tell me, what did you find during your examination just now, before the panic interrupted? Because 10 years ago, I had a panic attack during my own board examinations. I failed that day, spectacularly and publicly. It took me 3 years to try again. Maya's eyes widened. The great Marcus Chen admitting to such profound vulnerability felt impossible. No one helped me then, he continued. Everyone saw my failure and wrote me off. I had to claw my way back alone. When I saw you struggling, I saw myself. And I decided that maybe the system could be different. Maybe we could be different. He moved toward the door, then paused. You have the knowledge, Miss Sullivan. You have the skill. The panic is just noise trying to convince you otherwise. Don't let it win. Then he was gone, leaving Maya alone with her racing thoughts and the slowly dawning realization that the worst moment of her life might have just become something else entirely. Something that felt strangely like hope. 8 months later, Maya stood in the cardiac research laboratory at Georgetown Medical Center, reviewing echocardiogram images on a wall of monitors. The data was fascinating, subtle patterns in heart rhythm variations that might predict anxiety-related cardiac events. You're here early. Marcus's voice came from the doorway. She turned to find him carrying 2 coffee cups, still dressed in surgical scrubs. Says the man who just came from an 8-hour surgery, Maya replied, accepting the coffee gratefully. What time did you start? Midnight. Emergency quadruple bypass. He moved to stand beside her, studying the monitors. But that's different. That was saving a life. This is you being stubborn about data that will still be here tomorrow. This data could save lives too. Maya pointed to a series of wave patterns. Look at this. The heart rate variability in patients with diagnosed anxiety disorders shows specific signatures 12 to 18 hours before they report subjective symptoms. If we can identify these patterns, we could develop early warning systems. Marcus leaned closer, his attention caught. Even after months of working together, Maya still found herself hyper-aware of his presence. The way he focused with such intensity on whatever held his interest. Their relationship had remained professionally appropriate. But there were moments, small instances of connection, that felt like something more waiting to happen. This is remarkable work, Maya. He scrolled through her analysis. Have you control for medication variables? Completely. The patterns hold regardless of pharmaceutical intervention. She pulled up another screen. Even more interesting, I've been correlating this with our survey data from the support groups. Participants who learned to recognize their early physiological symptoms reported better outcomes overall. Not fewer panic attacks necessarily, but less severe ones. Shorter duration, faster recovery. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying the data. Maya, this could revolutionize how we approach anxiety management in high-stress professions. If people could get biofeedback before the panic fully manifests, they could intervene earlier. That's what I was thinking. Maya felt excitement building. We could develop wearable monitors. Simple devices that track heart rate variability and alert the wearer when patterns shift into the danger zone. Then they could use their coping strategies before the full attack hits. Breathing exercises, grounding techniques, medication if needed. Marcus's eyes lit up. This is brilliant. The praise warmed her more than the coffee. Over the past 8 months, she'd grown to respect Marcus not just as a renowned surgeon, but as a researcher with genuine insight, a mentor who pushed her to think bigger, and a person whose struggles mirrored her own in ways that created unexpected understanding. The support group meetings had been transformative. Twice a month, medical professionals from across the hospital gathered to share their experiences with mental health challenges. Surgeons, nurses, residents, even administrators, all carrying invisible burdens, all learning they weren't alone. Marcus attended every meeting, speaking with the same honesty he'd shown Maya that first day. His willingness to be vulnerable gave others permission to do the same. I need to show you something. Marcus set down his coffee and pulled out his phone. This came through last night. He handed her the device. On the screen was an email from the National Institute of Mental Health. Maya's breath caught as she read. A grant approval for $3.5 million to expand their research program nationally, to develop the support protocols they pioneered at Georgetown into a model for medical institutions across the country. This is incredible, she looked up at him. Your proposal was funded. Our proposal, he corrected gently. You wrote half of it. Your research on physiological markers was what made it compelling. Maya felt tears threaten. 8 months ago, she'd been a terrified medical student convinced her anxiety would destroy her career. Now she was a published researcher, contributing to work that could help thousands facing similar struggles. I need to tell you something. Marcus's tone shifted, becoming more serious. Can we sit for a moment? They settled into chairs facing each other, the morning light casting everything in soft gold. I had a difficult moment yesterday, he began. During the surgery, there was an unexpected complication, massive bleeding. For about 90 seconds, I froze. The old panic came rushing back, telling me I was going to kill this patient. Maya's heart clenched. What did you do? I used the techniques we've been teaching in the support groups. I acknowledged the panic, reminded myself it was just anxiety, not reality, focused on my breathing. And then I asked my resident to take the lead for a moment while I collected myself. He met her eyes. I actually said it out loud. I told my team I needed a minute. That must have been terrifying. It was liberating. A small smile touched his lips. They didn't judge me. They stepped up, handled the crisis, and when I was ready, I stepped back in. We saved the patient together. Maya reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. The gesture felt natural, necessary. You've changed my life, Marcus. I don't know if I've ever properly thanked you for that. You've helped me believe the same thing about myself, he said quietly. The laboratory door opened and Dr. Sarah Williams walked in, stopping short when she saw them holding hands. Her eyebrows rose, but her expression held amusement rather than disapproval. Shall I come back later? She asked dryly. Over the next hour, they discussed the situation openly. Dr. Williams, pragmatic as always, helped them establish clear guidelines. Maya would begin reporting to another senior researcher. Marcus would recuse himself from any decisions about her career advancement. I'm not concerned, Dr. Williams said finally. You're both adults. You're being thoughtful about the ethics. And frankly, you're good for each other. Just don't let it interfere with the research. After Dr. Williams left, Marcus stood and offered his hand. Would you like to have dinner with me? Not as colleagues, not as research partners, but as two people who happen to like each other. Maya took his hand, letting him pull her to her feet. I would like that very much. They stood close, not quite touching, the morning light streaming through the laboratory windows. Thank you, Maya said softly, for seeing me that day in the examination room, for not letting me fail, for showing me that I could be both vulnerable and strong at the same time. Marcus's hand came up to cup her cheek. You were never broken, Maya. You were always whole. You just needed permission to believe it. Their first kiss was soft, tentative, a question and an answer all at once. When they pulled apart, Maya was smiling, truly smiling, without the weight of anxiety pressing down on her shoulders. There would still be hard days. The panic attacks hadn't magically disappeared, but now she had tools to manage them, support to rely on, and the understanding that her mental health struggles didn't disqualify her from the life she wanted to live. If anything, they had led her here, to this moment, to this person, to this work that mattered. Marcus's pager went off. He checked it and sighed. Push to Perones. Go save lives. Maya nudged him toward the door. I'll be here analyzing data and changing the future of mental health in medicine. He paused in the doorway, looking back at her with warmth and promise. Dinner tonight? There's a quiet French place in Georgetown. Good wine, better conversation. It's a date. After he left, Maya turned back to her monitors, to the heart rhythms and data patterns that held the potential to help so many people. She thought about the student she'd been 8 months ago, terrified and alone, convinced that her anxiety made her unworthy of her dream. She wished she could go back and tell that girl what was coming. The acceptance, the understanding, the discovery that vulnerability could be a strength rather than a weakness. Maya pulled up a blank document and began typing. Preliminary findings suggest that early recognition of physiological anxiety markers, combined with comprehensive support systems and reduced stigma, can significantly improve outcomes for healthcare professionals with anxiety disorders. This study demonstrates that mental health challenges, rather than disqualifying individuals from medical practice, may actually enhance empathy and patient care when properly supported and managed. She paused, reading her own words, feeling their truth resonate through her. This was what healing looked like, not the absence of struggle, but the ability to move forward despite it, to transform wounds into wisdom, to help others because you'd walked the difficult path yourself. Outside the laboratory windows, the sun climbed higher, illuminating Georgetown Medical, where lives were saved and changed every day. Maya was part of that now, fully and completely, not despite her anxiety, but as a whole person who happened to experience it. She had found her place, her purpose, and perhaps, tentatively but genuinely, the beginning of love with someone who understood her completely. The shy woman who'd revealed more than she expected in that examination room had discovered something unexpected. That being seen, truly seen with all her vulnerabilities exposed, wasn't the end she'd feared. That IT was the beginning of everything she'd never dared to hope for. And that, Maya thought, as she returned to her research with renewed purpose, was the most profound healing of